Resourceful Designer, episode 262. There's no such thing as a bad client.
Welcome to the Resourceful Designer Podcast, offering solutions to streamline your graphic and web design business so you can get back to designing. And now, your host. He loves drinking the milk from his bowl after he's eaten the cereal. Mark DeCouch.
I don't understand people who don't drink the milk from their cereal bowl. I think it's one of the best parts of eating cereal, especially if you're eating a sweet cereal, like one of the sugary ones. I don't know, my wife and both my kids pour their leftover milk down the sink, which I'll just never get. I guess it's just one of those unwinnable arguments. Oh well. In this week's episode, I want to talk to you about clients, particularly bad clients, and how, if you're doing your job right, they should never be a problem for you. And after that conversation, in the Resource of the Week section, I'm going to share my new and favorite tool for organizing and managing web pages when building a site. And if you use WordPress, you're really going to want to know about this one. So let's get on with it. There's no such thing as a bad client. Okay, confession to make here. Obviously, bad clients are a thing. I actually chose that title to get your attention. And I guess it worked because you're here, aren't you? What I should have titled this episode is, if you do your job right, you should never have to deal with a bad client. But it just doesn't have the same ring to it. Anyway, clients. I like to joke by saying our lives as designers would be so much better if we didn't have to deal with clients. Come on, I know you're smiling at that. I bet if I asked you to recount an experience with a bad client, it wouldn't take you long to think of one. Heck, there are entire websites dedicated to stories of bad clients that designers have had to endure. Check out clientsfromhell.net. Let me warn you, once you start reading the stories, it's like YouTube. It's very hard to stop. You just keep scrolling and scrolling and reading story after story. But man, some of them, whew, check it out and you'll understand what I'm saying. But every designer out there, you and me included, has our own or their own definition of what makes a bad client. To some, it's their personality. They're demanding or obnoxious. This is how I want you to do it. No, that's not what I asked for. What's wrong with you? Or they're too timid and uncommitting, never able to give a firm opinion. I don't know. I can't decide. What do you think? Maybe it's their inability to visualize. I really have no idea what I want, but I'll know it when I see it. Or, I don't know, can you try something like this, or like this, or like this? Perhaps something like this? That way I can see the different versions. That way I'll know what it looks like. Bad clients also come in the form of those who are reluctant to or flat out refuse to pay. These clients don't realize, or sometimes they just don't care, that as a small business owner, you rely on every bit of income to make a living, and their refusal or tardiness in paying your invoices, your bills, can drastically affect your way of life. And then, of course, there are clients who want something for nothing. They assure you that the exposure you'll get for working on their project, because they're going to tell everybody they see about it, that'll be more valuable to you than any sum of money that you can charge them. The list continues with clients who change scope midway through a project. Some might do it innocently by asking you to do some small extra things, not thinking anything of it, such as maybe adding one extra page to their website that talks about all the philanthropic work that they do, even though you've already have the whole site structure in place. And of course, there's clients who do it not so innocently, trying to squeeze out every little bit of extra from you without having to pay anything more. You know the clients I'm talking about. Hey, while you're making that header for the website, can you also supply us a copy of it to fit our Facebook page, our LinkedIn profile, Twitter, YouTube, and all the rest? It's just a simple matter of resizing what you already have. It shouldn't take you any time at all. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about. And we can't forget the clients who just make those strange demands. You know, the, can you make the logo bigger type clients? are those who just expect way too much. Hey, I did a search for a car dealership and our new website isn't showing up on the first page of Google. What are you going to do about that? They just have no concept on what to expect. And there are clients who think they know more about design than you do. And don't forget clients who wait until the very last possible minute to supply you with the content that you've been asking for weeks for them to deliver, and then they still expect the project to be delivered on time. There are clients who are just so disorganized that you have no idea how they're still in business. And I could go on and on and on because there's no shortages of quote unquote bad clients. However, there are ways you can minimize, if not eliminate, your interaction with these less than desirable clientele. It all comes down to experience. When you first start out in this field, being a graphic designer, especially working for yourself, either freelancing or running your own small design business, you will encounter bad clients. It's inevitable. We've all been there. Call it an initiation or maybe a rite of passage. We're all at some point in our careers going to deal with bad clients. What you need to do is treat these bad clients as a learning experience. You see, you have to experience these bad clients in order for you to be able to spot bad clients in the future. So anytime you work with a client that you deem bad, take a mental note. Figure out what was undesirable about working with them, and then use that knowledge to help your future self. Now, this might be something as simple as an interaction with a client causes you to add a new clause to your contract. I know many designers, myself included, who have appended their contracts based on something that happened with a client. Or if you are new and you're not using a contract, maybe some interaction or something that happens with a client may cause you to start using a contract. That's how I started. I worked for years without contracts. I heard about them, but I thought, I don't need a contract until I built a website for a client and they refused to pay. And I never did get paid for that, but I didn't have a contract. But since that point, I've used a contract for every project. But that all came from experiences and learning from dealing with past, quote unquote, bad clients. And it's up to you to use that knowledge to weed out potential bad clients before you start working with them. Now, way back in episode 133 of the podcast, I talked about 12 red flags for spotting bad design clients. And I'm not going to go over them again here, but you can go back and listen to them. And I shared some good points that you can keep an eye out for people that you may not want to work with. But if, for some reason, you do find yourself working with the same type of bad clients over and over and over again, then I'm afraid to say you're doing something wrong. And that something wrong is that you're not learning from your mistakes. You see, with enough experience, and by putting that knowledge, that experience you've gained to use, you should be able to spot a bad client a mile away and then steer clear of them. Don't get me wrong. Not all clients who appear to be bad are actually bad clients. Some, and I may even hazard a guess to say most, are simply uneducated clients. And that is uneducated in the ways of working with a professional designer such as yourself. Many clients just don't understand what it is that you do as a creative professional. And that means they don't realize why the things they're requesting are so crazy, are so out there, and that could label them as bad clients. In these cases, instructing a client in how you operate, your procedures and method of operation, by telling a client, instructing them on these, you can turn a potentially bad client into somebody who is a pleasure to work with. I speak from experience. There's some clients that I started off that were very demanding. They had their set ways, and I had to put my foot down and say, no, this is how the process works. This is how I do things. And you know what? some of those clients have become some of my best clients. Now, if you haven't already, I suggest you listen to my 7-part client onboarding series. That ran from episode 160 to episode 166. And in that series, I explain the entire process from the point when a client first contacts you to acquiring them, to explaining how you operate, to laying the foundations to a strong and ongoing relationship with them. Something that'll endure even after that initial project is complete. Following the steps that I outlined in that series can help steer a client away from the dark side of being a bad client. Keep in mind that many times when a client hires a designer, they do so because they have a goal in mind, but they don't necessarily know how to reach that goal. That's where you come in. Through proper communication between you and the client and an understanding of what their problem is, the two of you working together can set out a plan to reach a solution. Show the client you understand what they want and let them know what you need from them in order to make that happen. Some clients will get it right away when you explain it, and others will require a little bit of hand-holding before they really understand what it is you're trying to say. Either way, you need to draw clear lines so that both parties, you and the client, know what you're both getting into. Remember, most clients, they don't think like you. They don't have the same creative process that you have. And that puts you in a very unique position to lead and to educate them on a process that works for both of you and that will end in success for both of you. But in the end, any client who lets you do your work, no matter how demanding they are or impolite or fussy, but they let you do your work and who pays you fairly for that work that you provide them, is a good client. Not every project can be creatively satisfying. Sometimes even the best clients will give you boring and mundane projects to work on, and there's not much you can do about it. That's just par for the course. Not every project will be super exciting. What you can do, however, is choose who you want to work with. And through experience and the knowledge you gain over time, the day will come when you'll be able to weed out and pass on the less desirable clients who approach you and identify those who just need to be educated on how the whole process works. And when you learn how to do that, it'll make what you do for a living all the more satisfying. Remember, the only truly bad client is the one that you take on despite your better judgment. Trust your gut. It won't steer you wrong. Now, before I get to the resource of the week, I just want to remind you about the Resourceful Designer community. Newest member Stacy joined us this week, which gets us a little bit closer to our goal of 50 members. Remember, I'm going to cap it. Once we reach 50, I'm closing the doors to new members, and the only way somebody can join is if somebody decides to leave the community. I believe that 50 members is a good amount to keep great conversations going, but without the conversations becoming so impersonal because you don't know the people you're talking to. Right now, we have some great conversations, great topics, all sorts of stuff going on, and the people are really getting to know and interact with each other, asking for help, collaborating on projects. It's really something great to see. And I would love for you to be a part of this community. To find out more information, visit resourcefuldesigner.com/community and read up on it there. Or if you want to ask me, send me an email at feedback@resourcefuldesigner.com. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Now, as I said at the beginning, I recently found a plugin for WordPress that has changed the way I set up sites. Now, I'm the type of person that like to know what pages and posts and everything I'm going to have before I actually start a site. So I usually lay these things out on paper or something. I use Dynalist, which is another website that I've mentioned before as a resource. to lay out the structure of the pages. And then I now started using a plugin called Nested Pages. It's a free plugin. You can get it through the WordPress plugin directory. And what it allows you to do is creates a simple and intuitive drag and drop interface for managing your page structure and post orderings. What I love is you can quickly add multiple pages and posts to a site. I recently had a website. I was building a brand new website, and I had, I'd say close to 60 or 70 pages on this site, all in different levels. So you had the about page, and then you had the mission statement, and I had the services, and the services had dropped down to different levels and all that. Well, with this Nested Pages plugin, I was able to go in and say, okay, create the about page, create the services page, create this page, this page, this page. And then I was able to go in and say, okay, under the services, create these 5 pages, and they're going to be a child page of this parent page called services. So you can quickly add multiple pages to a post. And it took me less than 5 minutes, and I had a website with over 60 pages in the structure. Now, I had the choice. I published them as drafts, and that way I can go through and see, okay, here are all the draft pages. Now I know what pages I have to build, and once they're built, I publish them so that anything that is a draft, I know I still have to work on. But the pages are all there. The hierarchy, the tree, if you want to call it that, the structure of the site is there right from the start. And this plugin makes it so easy. And another feature, although I haven't used this feature, from what I read, is it can automatically generate a native WordPress menu that matches your page structure. So if you have your pages in a certain order, and you can move stuff around. So what's great about this plugin is you create a page and say, I create the mission statement, and I have the mission statement under the About Us page. It's a child page of the About page. And I decide that I don't want it there. I want the mission statement to be just a separate page, but accessed from the footer. I can just quickly grab that, drag it down to the footer part of my hierarchy, and drop it there. And it rearranges everything. So now if it was part of the menu to begin with, it no longer is. If I had a separate footer menu, it's added it to that menu. So it's really hard to explain this, not being visual, not showing you. So I highly suggest you either click the link in the show notes, which will take you to the web page describing this, or just install Nested Pages. Just look for it. It's the very first one that shows up. Install it and have a go at it. It's a free plugin. And as I said, I just discovered this, and wow, it has changed the way that I structure and build out a website. And I know if you use WordPress, you're going to love this as well. So Nested Pages, that's our resource of the week. So I want to thank you very much for listening. It's been a blast. I hope you don't have to deal with too many bad clients, and that those you do, you learn from, so that you can stay away from them in the future or learn how to educate them in order to become good clients. So thank you very much. I look forward to you tuning in again next week for another episode of Resourceful Designer. Until then, I am Mark Decote, wishing you all the best with your design business and reminding you to stay creative.
Thanks for listening to the Resourceful Designer podcast at resourcefuldesigner.com.